Hey everyone, in this module we're going to go over your grid setting, turning it on, and how and why you might want to use it. We're going to go over the default file storage setting and changing that just in case you want to change it. And then lastly, we're going to open the iPhone camera app and walk through all of the different shooting styles so you know how and when to use which style. So now we're going to review how to turn on your grid. I'm going to talk a little bit about how and why we use it, but really we're going to review that in a different module. So if you don't have your grid turned on, you're going to go into your settings and you're going to scroll down quite a bit of a way until you get to your camera. And then I advise turned it off. When it's green, it's turned on. And then when you go to your camera, you see these lines. And this is going to help you with your framing of your shots and where you place things. And we will address the rule of thirds a little bit later, but it helps tell a better story. So now we're going to walk through the different file storage settings. The iPhone automatically saves your files as an HEIF file, which stands for High Efficiency Image File. And it's not very compatible with other devices, so sometimes you'll send photos and somebody doesn't get it or they don't know where it's at. We're going to change that setting to a JPEG. That's how I save them because it's the most compatible, and then we'll show you in a little bit later on a comparison side by side between the JPEG and the HEIF file. It's actually a better quality. So we're already in your camera settings where we were before, and we turned on your grid. Just at the very bottom of that list, you can see formats. Click Open Formats, and typically yours is going to be set on high efficiency unless you've already changed it, and it explains right here what the HEIF stands for. I go ahead and switch mine, like I said, to most compatible, and then it will save as a JPEG. So now we're going to open the camera itself and go through all of the different settings on your screen, which you may be familiar with, but for those that aren't, we're going to do a brief overview, and then a little bit later on we'll address all of the different settings I use and I recommend. So we're going to start in this upper right hand corner. These are your filters, and whenever you're on a filter, it turns color. So that's how you know if you accidentally have a filter turned on. I don't tend to use a lot of filters. I like to control the color settings afterwards, but that's how you turn it off and on. Right here is a self timer. This is good if you want to get group photos of maybe you and your staff. Maybe you're behind the bar, you want to tell the bar staff. You can do 3 seconds or 10 seconds, and you click it to turn it off. So that's how you open it. 3 seconds, click it again to open it, to turn it off. This is the live shoot mode, this little circle with a line through it. Right now it's turned off, and you know that because it's white. When you turn it on, it turns yellow. What that does is it records a short video before and after you take a shot. Usually good for anybody pouring something or a waitress setting down or waiter setting down items. We're going to review that in depth in a different module. So I'll turn it off. Here we have the HDR setting. You can click it open to turn on, off, or auto. I recommend keeping it on off because most of the time in your kitchens and such, you're not going to need it. And if it's on auto, it's going to tend to take photos like that, which take up more space on your iPhone. So listen for a later chapter whenever we go through how, why, and when you use HDR, and then you can turn it on whenever you want it to be on as opposed to auto settings. So in the upper left corner, we have your flash. I always recommend keeping it turned off. So whenever you use flash on food, it doesn't really complement the food. We'll actually review that in a little bit later on in a different module. So keep that turned off. Then we're going to go down here. I think pretty everyone's familiar with this, but this is your front-facing camera if you want to do a selfie. It's definitely not as high quality of a camera. I doubt you're going to be using it in your kitchens, but again, reserve that for selfies. Fixing the focus so it's a prettier shot for you to look at. Then we're going to go down here. Here are all your different shooting modes. I love the time lapse for whenever you're maybe doing recipe development or somebody's, again, making a cocktail, pouring something. That's how I tend to use that. Slow-mo, same thing, and you can always do your AE/AF lock in any of these features. It works all the way across all cameras. Slow-mo is really fun for doing pours. We'll play around with that later. Video, we all know video. Again, you can change your lenses. Photo. Portrait mode, which we'll go in depth about, but you can already see this effect. It's starting to soften the background, and we'll really focus on that in another module, but stay tuned. Square, I know we all use Instagram and social media and it supports square. However, I recommend shooting it in your regular photo mode. If you take a photo and something's not there, you can't add it. So just like in your kitchens, if you have too much salt, you can't remove it. So I recommend shooting everything with the full photo and then cropping it if you want to crop it later. But that's how this, just using square. And then pano, we all know what pano's for. If you're out in nature, if you're on a hike, or if you're getting a room setting, it'd be really great for that. Lastly, let's just go back to our photo. This button over here is how you review your last shots taken. And you press this little arrow to get back to your camera.